my dear friends, and welcome back to another video. The Bad Batch introduced us to one of the most mysterious yet interesting animated Star Wars characters that we've seen in a long time, Omega. The young enhanced female clone was revealed to have first generation Jango DNA, making her Boba Fett's sister, so to speak. But there still is so much that we don't know about her. For example, there's definitely more to her genetic makeup. We don't know where she ends up further down the timeline and what her purpose is going to be in the greater Star Wars universe. Some people think that she's going to be a Mandalorian, while others lean towards Force sensitivity, which could mean that she eventually will be a Jedi. Whatever the case may be, Jennifer Corbett and Dave Filoni clearly have some big plans for the character. We know for certain now that the Bad Batch is going to get at least one more season, and knowing how Dave Filoni writes these sort of characters, she will not only play a big role in animated Star Wars, but eventually in live action as well. As many fans pointed out when the Bad Batch was in full swing, Omega in many ways is the new Ahsoka Tano. In other words, she's a character that's going to have a long-lasting story arc who starts in the animated series and eventually makes her way into live action. And just like Ahsoka, many fans started out by really disliking her, but gradually and eventually warmed up to the character. With the connections that Omega has genetically to Jango and Boba Fett, and being an enhanced clone survivor of the Clone Wars, I don't think we appreciate just how impressive her profile is for the future of the Star Wars universe, especially now that the Bad Batch is moving closer to the original trilogy than the prequels. We must remember that Brad Rau recently confirmed there is going to be a time jump, so we need to bear that in mind. Whenever the subject of Omega's future is mentioned, the way she ages is often brought up. It seems to have been implied from the Bad Batch Season 1 that Omega is the only member of Clone Force 99 who ages normally. This makes it very likely that she's going to outlive her brothers. With this in mind, the prospect of Omega appearing as a fully grown woman in one of the upcoming shows is increasingly likely. But which of the confirmed shows could include an Omega storyline? Let's explore this question before I give you my personal theory and answer. Because Omega is a Fett, many fans were quick to assume that she's going to make an appearance in the Book of Boba Fett this December. I addressed this in a recent video, and just to reinstate what I said, I don't think she will. It's far too soon to bring Omega in, and due to the series taking place 30 years after the Bad Batch Season 1, if Omega does appear, we'll have a lot of questions about her life answered before we get to see them unfold through the future seasons of the Bad Batch. Whichever path that she chose in life, if she appears in the Book of Boba Fett, it would already tell us where she ended up before exploring her early life and journey in the animated series. It would really ruin the surprise, so to speak. Having said that, I definitely think Omega will meet Boba at some point in the future. They've set up a big connection to Boba as we've established, and they wouldn't have done this if it wasn't to have the two of them meet and interact at some stage. Now, if the Book of Boba Fett does eventually end up having more than one season, then I could definitely see Lucasfilm introducing Omega in Season 2. By the time that we would hypothetically get a Season 2 of the Book of Boba Fett, we would have likely got another season of the Bad Batch. So for one thing, we would have a lot more context. But there is of course an argument to be made in favour of Omega appearing in the Book of Boba Fett, which I'm going to talk about now. Not only does Omega have a connection to Boba Fett, but also to Fennec Shand. Ming-Na Wen's character played a big role in the early half of the Bad Batch Season 1 and was hired by Nala Se and Lama Su to bring Omega back to Kamino. Omega and Fennec Shand have a history that goes back to the rise of the Empire, and for them to reunite in the Book of Boba Fett later on in the timeline would be very interesting to say the least. As we saw in the Bad Batch Episode 9, Nala Se later advised Fennec Shand to stand down, as long as Omega is safe with the Bad Batch. To Fennec Shand, business is business, and I doubt she had any sort of hate for Omega, nor do I think she was amicable towards her either. So some kind of reunion would be very curious, particularly since Omega's only memory of Fennec Shand so far was that she tried to capture her when she was a child. Knowing how the Fett family function, I smell revenge. But then again, that's not really in Omega's character. So moving on from the Book of Boba Fett, what about other options? Staying within the Mandalorian timeline, a future season of the Mandalorian itself could very much see Din Djarin running into Omega. After all, if she does end up becoming a Mandalorian, she could function as an ally or adversary to Din. If by that point in the Star Wars timeline Omega is part of a Mandalorian clan, she might get word that Din Djarin has the Darksaber, and she might go after it herself. And just before we move on guys, I've heard a lot of people say, what if Omega is the armorer? Let me tell you flat out right right now she isn't. Now, another contender for where Omega could appear in live action is of course the Ahsoka series. About halfway through season 1 of The Bad Batch, I started seeing a lot of speculation from other channels that Omega could meet Ahsoka in the future. Apart from their mutual friends Echo and Captain Rex, I don't see how Omega would play into the Ahsoka series. For one thing, the show is already set to have a main focus on the search for Grand Admiral Thrawn and Ezra Bridger. Unless season 2 of The Bad Batch gives us a good reason to connect those dots, I don't see her appearing in the Ahsoka series. But then again, no plot details are known yet and it could happen. All I'm saying is, that's not the logical connection that I would make. So now I'm going to give you my own personal theory. Omega will come into live action in either Rangers of the New Republic or the Cassian Andor series. Let's start with the former. Rangers was recently shelved, and the reason is widely believed to be because of the firing of Gina Carano, whose character Cara Dune was meant to be the protagonist of the series. The show would have explored the adventures of Cara Dune of Alderaan, but now that can't happen. For a few months at the start of this year, there were rumours that Hera Syndulla would be replacing her, but then the series was taken out of active production. But that doesn't mean the show won't happen eventually. It almost certainly will. But Dave Filoni currently has his hands very full by focusing on The Mandalorian Season 3 with Jon Favreau, and then of course the Ahsoka series, which is believed to go into active production after The Mandalorian Season 3 wraps up. But going back to Hera Syndulla, we've heard of plans to bring her into live action ever since The Mandalorian Season 2 ended. Bringing her into live action is clearly on the agenda for Lucasfilm, and I think Rangers of the New Republic is the perfect show to introduce her into live action. Star Wars Andor, which is the Rogue One spin-off, is another good option, and I'll come to that in a moment. So how does all of this talk of Hera Syndulla connect to Omega? Because in episodes 11 and 12 of The Bad Batch Season 1, a meaningful friendship was teased between Omega and Hera. Their shared love for flying and explorative sense of adventure were enough for the two of them to bond. When they do eventually reunite in live action, they're going to be much older, and I see those episodes of The Bad Batch Season 1 as foreshadowing of so many great adventures that the two of them will go on together, at least in some capacity. Now, I did mention the Andor series because that's also a great place for Hera to make her live action debut. We know that timeline wise there is going to be some overlap with Star Wars Rebels, and she was active with the early rebellion at this time. And in Rogue One we even see Chopper as an Easter egg. I don't mean he's an actual Easter egg, I mean they threw him in as an Easter egg for the audience. I'm not sure if that needed to be cleared up, but you never know. But I digress. I have no doubt that Hera Syndulla will make some kind of appearance in Andor, but whether Omega will tie into it is a completely different matter. Now, since the Andor series is not in the Mandalorian timeline, both Hera Syndulla and Omega would be much younger than if they appear in Rangers. More specifically, they would both be young adults fighting on the side of the early rebellion with Bail Organa. But whether it's in Andor, Rangers, or a different series, I think that Omega's live-action debut is almost certainly going to be connected to Hera Syndulla. There was too much emotion connected to their friendship, and I don't think that was just added in coincidentally. As George Lucas would say, it's like poetry, it rhymes. So in my opinion, Rangers or Andor are both solid bets. But as I say guys, the Book of Boba Fett might end up connecting Omega to its story, so I guess time will tell. But I want to hear from you guys, my amazing Megalorians who make this channel what it is. Let me know your thoughts of Omega in live action in the comments down below. And before I go guys, I want to thank you all for the amazing support. If you guys enjoy what I do here, please may I ask you to consider becoming a patron. The link is down there in the description. It really helps out my channel, and for as little as $2 a month, you get exclusive access to content that's not found here on YouTube. I appreciate you for stopping in today to watch this video, and I will see you in the next one. I'm Megan, also known as Star Wars Meg, and I'm wishing you a phenomenal rest of the day, wherever you are in the galaxy. Have a good one.